All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the U.S. Army's playbook for what might be one of the toughest parts of modern war. It's not just about winning the fight, it's about what comes after. How do you turn a hard-won victory on the battlefield into a real, lasting peace? Well, that's exactly what Army Doctrine Publication 3-07, or ADP 3-07 Stability, is all about. So, let's just jump right in with the question that every single military operation has to answer. Picture it, right? The main fighting is done, the enemy is defeated, and then what? What happens next? Because that quiet that follows a battle, well, it can be filled with a ton of uncertainty. And history has taught us over and over again that what you do in those first few hours and days after the shooting stops, that's what really determines if you've actually won. And here's why that's so critical. Winning the war and winning the peace, they are two totally different ballgames. I mean, winning the war, that's about defeating enemy forces, right? It's kinetic. It's about action. But winning the peace, that's a whole different skill set. It's not about destruction, it's about construction. It's about helping a nation get back on its feet so it can stand on its own. And let me tell you, that is a much more complex, long-term game that takes a completely different way of thinking. Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. We're going to look at what's called the Victor's Dilemma. Then we'll dive into the Army's Blueprint for Peace, ADP 307. We'll break down the key steps, from security to rebuilding, and then tie it all together to see why stability is the ultimate win. So let's start with this idea, the Victor's Dilemma. Think about it. When you win a major conflict, you often create a huge power vacuum. And if you don't have a solid plan for what comes next, that vacuum gets filled, and fast. But not with good things. It gets filled with chaos, with crime, maybe even a new insurgency. And just like that, everything you fought for can completely fall apart. So, how does the Army deal with that dilemma? Well, that's exactly where ADP 3-07 comes into play. You can think of it as the official blueprint for building peace. It lays out the game plan, a step-by-step process for taking a place from total chaos and conflict to a state of, well, stability. And before we go any further, we have to get on the same page about what that word stability actually means. The Army has a really specific definition. See, stability isn't just, the fighting has stopped. It's more than that. It's the presence of something positive. It's a situation where the local people feel like their government is legitimate and that their day-to-day lives are acceptable and, importantly, predictable. Legitimacy and predictability. Those two words are everything. And this quote from the doctrine itself just nails the whole philosophy. It says, military force alone cannot secure sustainable peace. I mean, think about that. That's a huge statement. It's the Army itself saying, look, we're essential to winning the fight, but we can't do this next part alone. Real, lasting success means we have to work with everyone, civilian groups, international partners, and most importantly, the host nation itself. So this all leads to a really crucial strategic role for the Army, to consolidate gains. That's the official term, and what it really means is making sure that a victory today is still a victory tomorrow and a year from now. It's about turning that short-term win on the battlefield into a long-term political success that actually achieves our goals. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine a major trauma situation. The combat part of the military, they're like the paramedics. They rush in, they stop the bleeding, they stabilize the patient. Absolutely critical, life-saving stuff. But that's just the first step, right? Stability operations, that's the team of surgeons, the physical therapists, the counselors, the people who do the long, hard work of rebuilding and recovery so the patient can have a healthy future. You need both, but they are very different jobs. Okay, so let's get into how this actually works. Where does this whole process start? Well, it begins with the absolute basics, establishing security and order. This is the bedrock. If you don't have this, nothing else matters. So, ADP 307 gives us a framework. It breaks this whole thing down into 6 primary tasks. You can think of these as the 6 major building blocks for taking a society from chaos to stability. So, let's walk through them one by one. All right, task number 1. The first thing you have to do is establish civil security. This is non-negotiable. It's all about making sure people are safe. I mean, think about it. You can't rebuild anything, a school, a market, a community, if people are too scared to even walk outside their homes. So this is where you'll see soldiers protecting critical places like power plants or hospitals, and making the area safe for everyone to live and work. Okay, once you've got a basic level of safety, the very next step is support to civil control. And there's a key difference here. Security is about stopping the bad stuff from happening. Civil control is about building the good stuff,
a system of justice. It's about helping stand up a police force and a court system that people actually trust. The goal is to get to a place where problems are solved with laws, not with guns.
All right, so we've got safety, we've got the beginnings of a justice system. Now the mission really starts to shift. The focus moves to the massive task of rebuilding a nation, of getting all its core functions back online. This is where the really long-term work kicks in.
And that starts with number 3, restore essential services. We're talking about the absolute basics for human survival, stuff we take for granted every day. Clean water, food, a roof over your head, medical help. Right after a conflict, the Army might have to step in and provide these things directly. Engineers getting the water running again, medics setting up clinics. But the goal is always to get things stable enough so that civilian aid groups and the local government can take over.
Next up, task number 4, support to governance. It's pretty simple. A country just can't work without some kind of functioning government. So this task is all about helping them get public services running again. And the key word here is support. It's not about telling them what to do, it's about helping local leaders figure things out for themselves, whether it's how to manage a budget or just how to make sure aid gets to the people who need it most.
And happening right alongside all this is task number 5, support to economic and infrastructure development. Look, people need more than just safety. They need hope, they need jobs, they need a future. So this is all about getting the economy moving again. Maybe it's Army engineers helping to fix a bridge so farmers can get their goods to market. When you give people a real economic stake in a peaceful future, you create one of the most powerful forces for stability there is.
So that brings us to the last, and you could argue the most important phase of all. The first 5 tasks are about putting out the fire and starting to rebuild the house. This last one is about handing the keys back to the owner. It's all about creating self-sufficiency. And that is task number 6, conduct security cooperation. This is plain and simple the exit strategy. The whole point is to work ourselves out of a job. This is where we train, advise, and help equip the nation's own security forces so that they can protect their people. When you can successfully hand over that responsibility to a professional local force, that's when you know you're really winning the peace.
Okay, so let's pull the camera back for a second and look at the big picture. These 6 things we just talked about, they're not just a random to-do list. They're all part of one integrated system. And when you see how they fit together, you really understand why stability is the ultimate victory. These 6 tasks we've gone through are all designed to feed into the 5 key sectors of a society. See, nothing is random. It's all part of a coherent strategy where every single action is aimed at a specific long-term result.
And what is that result we're aiming for? Well, it's these 5 conditions. What you want is a safe and secure environment. You want an established rule of law. You want social well-being, stable governance, and a sustainable economy. When a nation has those 5 things, the job is done. The peace is secure.
So this all comes full circle, back to our main point. Victory isn't just one moment in time. It's not a single event. It's a long, tough process. And that leaves us with the real question, doesn't it? It's not just how do we win the fight, it's how do we make sure that victory actually lasts? And the answer, according to the Army's own doctrine, is through the difficult, patient, and absolutely essential work of building stability.
Hey, if you found this deep dive helpful, do us a favor and subscribe for more explainers on military doctrine and strategy. Thanks for tuning in.